Hey everyone, welcome back. So as you may have known, the Deimos Arcana update just dropped, and with that came a lot of new weapons, arcanes, augments, and a bunch of other tricks and toys. Today we're going to be looking at the Bubonico. It is the second arm cannon in the game after the Shedu. Now I'd like to call this one its spiritual successor, and you'll see pretty quickly. If we were going to use it for normal gameplay, the build would probably look like this. First, we have primed point blank for the base damage on the weapon, and then we're going to be running Hell's Chamber for the multi-shot, since this mod is so strong on shotguns, having more multi-shot than any other weapon type. Then we're running primed Ravage for the extra critical damage, as well as Blunderbuss for the extra critical chance. We're going to be running Toxic Barrage on 60-60 mod split, as well as primed charged shell, so that we can produce this heavier bias towards corrosive on the weapon. This is a hybrid weapon that has extremely high status on its Altfire and a crit focused primary fire, therefore that's why we need both crit and status on this weapon. We're going to be slotting in primed Cleanse Corrupted, since this is a best in slot mod that will increase the damage of our slash procs on our primary fire, as well as Incendiary Coat to give one last elemental that fares well against enemy types and can still strip armor. Now if we take a look at the base stats of this weapon right here, you'll see the primary fire has 25% base crit chance and 2.3x on the crit multiplier. This is fairly decent and quite usable, despite this weapon starting with a 0.5 disposition, so we don't really have any strength issues coming out of this weapon. Its Altfire, on the other hand, has a base 57% status, which is honestly quite nuts. It's not a shotgun on the Altfire, which I guess that's how they rein back on the power creep, otherwise 57% on a shotgun would be pretty nuts. The primary fire is a shotgun though, and that's why we have to deal with these mods. It makes it building a little bit more complicated, but I think it should still work out to be the same. For this build, I'm not slotting on any fire rate on it because I'm planning to source it from Arcane Tempo. Shotguns always suffer from issues with their fire rate outside of certain exceptions, so I thought it was a suitable choice to try out Arcane Tempo on this build. I'm also going to slot on Corrosive Projection on the Saren, since I forgot to set that at the start, as that's the standard that most gameplay will occur with. So here I'm going to spawn to level 145 Corrupted Heavy Gunners. We're going to head right over here, you see they're all 145. And if I just take this primary fire and start shooting at them, you'll see they die pretty quickly. One magazine is enough to kill half of these, and I just have to wait a little bit for the reload since it's automatic and battery like Shedu, and then I can just kill the second group immediately like that. Now if I spawn these enemies again and I test the Altfire instead, which is super status heavy and doesn't really have that much crit on it at all, you'll notice it can kill the enemies, but it's a little bit slow and a bit of a pain to use. Here if I set it up one more time with the Altfire and then I spray with the primary fire, you can see I pretty much annihilate all the enemies instantly. So I think for most of your star chart and sortie level gameplay as well as early endurance, you can probably just spray everything down with the primary fire. And the Altfire is probably more for a multi-hour endurance, but you really need all those corrosive and heat procs in play first. It would also work pretty well as a condition overload primer. Now another thing to consider about this weapon is the Altfire has stagger on it, unlike the primary fire, so you may want to consider running primed sure-footed to deal with this. Now I was thinking, since this weapon does so much AoE, how would it fare with some synergy on our classic Wisp, since everybody knows how strong Breach Surge on a Wisp is. And I was thinking this way I can get away from using Arcane Tempo since I can source it from her haste mode instead, and now I can stack Breach Surge on, which will do damage after I've already set everything up with the corrosive and heat procs. So we're gonna spawn the enemies right here. And I set everything up. You can see with just the Altfire, it's pretty much the same as before and doesn't do that much damage. But if I only use it as a setup and then switch to the primary fire, you can see I can shred the enemies pretty quickly. Unfortunately, it seems like Breach Surge's damage falls behind compared to what the Bubonico can put out instantly, which is a bit of a shame, but maybe it has some type of merit against higher level enemies where you can't kill them as fast, or against bombards where the radiation type damage from Breach Surge would be helpful due to their weakness on their armor. So now let's take a look at the Eidolon build. I'm going to switch over to Volt here, and we're going to take a look at the Warframe build very quickly. So the important part on this build is making sure I have Shock Trooper and modding for strength as well as Vigorous Swap. I'm going to throw Sprint Boost on this build so that I'm not biasing the test due to how this is calibrated. For our Arcanes, we're going to run Arcane Rage for the extra damage on headshots, since I'm still trying to squeeze out as much damage as I can as it's going to be a Rivenless run. The other Arcane is going to be Avenger, as I don't have that many sources of increasing my crit chance. Shotguns don't have the base crit chance mods, and it doesn't have a spectacular base crit chance. So Avenger is going to give us the equivalent of almost 200% modded crit chance, which you really can't get out of anything except Rivens. If I look at the weapon itself, I'm going to switch over to the Eidolon build. You'll notice at the top row the mods have not changed. I still have primed Point Blank, Hell's Chamber, primed Ravage, and Blunderbuss. This is going to set the foundation for our base damage, multi-shot, and crit stats. However, the bottom row has changed somewhat. We're going to be modding for full radiation this time, and this is more so due to lack of mods that I could fit in, as well as taking advantage of the primed mod. Then we're going to mod on shotgun spaz, as our magazine is already big enough, so our goal here is pretty much to dump it as fast as possible to maximize our burst damage. Finally, I'm going to slot in Vigilante armaments, since we only have Hell's Chamber on the build so far. As you can see here, it gives pretty substantial damage boost, and the innate radiation means if I forget to cast Shock Trooper, I should still be able to do a decent amount of damage. How about the supporting builds? Well, first we are going to look at our Sentinel. I'm still going to be modding the synth set mods on here, as I'm running a support Pandero that I'll show you in a bit. On the weapon, we're going to be equipping it with all 4 Vigilante mods so that my Bubonico can benefit from the extra crit chance from the set bonus. But we're going to be swapping this out for Nadarza during the testing to simulate a hero buff with Covenant. We're going to be modding it with Cat's Eye for that extra crit buff, as well as Tech Enhance to make sure that it lasts longer. Other support builds we're going to be running is a Sarpa. As this is a meme run, I'm going to be needing that armor strip, since corrosive projection can no longer strip down to 99% in a full squad like it used to. We need Shattering Impact for this base armor strip, as well as Primed Fury, Gladiator Vice, and Quickening to boost our attack speed. I'm going to be running Amalgam Organ Shatter in case I accidentally use a heavy attack so I can recover from it faster, Tech Gravity to pull in bombs if I really need to, Modus Setup so that I can get that extra anti-knockdown chance, as well as my Riven, which is totally unnecessary but gives us even more attack speed. Now if I take a look at my support Pandero, I'm not going to need to run our synth set here, as I already have it on my Sentinel in the run. And because Bubonico is a projectile weapon, I'm going to need to use Pandero to break our water limbs. So I'm going to favor the Barrel Diffusion build here. This is our max DPS support Pandero build that is identical to the Pandero DPS video I did a while back. It's going to make it very easy to break water limbs, and I'm hoping it's going to do its job well. So let's spawn our Drakkar Manic Bombards now. They're going to be at a level 110. I'm going to set up my Arcane Rage. Then I'm going to cast my Shock Trooper and place my shield. I proc Vigorous Swap, and just like always, I'm going to aim at the thigh. So as you can see, this weapon actually is extremely strong and lives up to its reputation of being Shedu's successor. This one magazine was enough to kill all of the Drakkar Manic Bombards. I didn't even have to factor in a 4-man squad with full armor strip with Sarpa. So I don't think this weapon will need a Riven down the road, especially with how strong it is. It's probably going to spend a fair amount of time sitting at its 0.5 dispo. Based on that, I don't think you need to worry about getting Rivens for this anytime in the near future. Well, that's it for this video. Hope you all enjoyed, and see you all next time.